The 119th Congress begins tomorrow. No surprise here, Speaker Mike Johnson has virtually no margin for error to retain the gavel. All right, here to run the numbers, CNN senior data reporter Harry Enten. I feel like this is Groundhog Day, that it is January 2nd, and we are back in the same speaker fight that we have been seeing for quite some time. Just how tight is the House race now?
Yeah, okay. So there are times when I see numbers and I feel like Joey from Blossom and go, whoa, this is an instance of it. Okay, Mike Johnson's major potential headache. It's the smallest majority at the start of a first session over 100 years. Because keep in mind, a lot of people will try and say, okay, you know, back in 1931. But keep in mind, the first session then didn't start actually until I think December. And there were a ton of vacancies. So I actually went further back into the record books and said, okay, when the first section actually started, and this is the smallest since at least 1917, if not further back, because we got 219 for the Republicans, because Matt Gaetz says he's not joining this Congress, and 215 for the Democrats likely tomorrow. We're talking about, yeah, it's pretty tight. It's pretty gosh darn tight. We're talking about a difference of, get this, just 4 seats between Republicans and Democrats, virtually no margin for error.
So how easy would it be for Johnson to lose on the very first ballot?
Yeah, okay, so let's do some math. I like doing math right after New Year's, don't you? Not like that we had anything in our bodies, you know, that might make our minds go a little bit crazy. All right, GOP reps can sink Johnson's speaker's bid if on a given ballot at least. This is scenario number 1. Scenario number 1 is if 2 Republicans vote against him, of course, assuming 434 voted Dems, no Dems vote for Johnson. Or scenario number 2, 1 Republican votes against him, votes against Johnson, and 2 abstain, i.e. vote present. So it's either 2 or 3, the most likely scenarios of Republicans that can sink Mike Johnson. And at this particular point, either of these ones look like a real possibility.
And we know, because we just talked to Congressman Auchincloss, that no Dems plan on voting for Johnson.
Correct.
So that is a scenario. It's either of these 2 if that holds true.
Correct.
All right, recent history. We've been through this before. Like I said, it's kind of a Groundhog Day. What are you seeing in the last couple of times this has happened?
Yeah, so the idea that Republicans might go against the speaker choice of the majority of the Congress ain't something that seems that crazy given the last 2 races, ballots it took to elect a speaker. You go back to January of 2023, 15 ballots for Kevin McCarthy, the most since 1859-60, and the first multi-ballot race since 1923. And then in October, we were like, let's do it all again. It took 4 ballots to elect Mike Johnson, and actually took more days for the Johnson one than the McCarthy one. We were talking over a week. So folks, look, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We don't know, but get your seatbelts, buckle in. It's a new year, but it's the same old story when it comes to speaker races being quite nutty.
The fact that you quoted Blossom, which I don't know how many people know that show.
I love that show. Great
It really
theme song.
caught John's attention. I know that for a fact.
I get John's attention rather easily just by looking straight into the camera.
Good times. Harry Enten, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It just feels like a whole new year for Harry Enten.
Right?
I
It
see
does,
so
doesn't it?
many changes.
a lot of
Quoting
things
Joey
happening
from
here.
Blossom. All right. Happy New Year to you both.
To you as well.
With us now is Congressman Andre Carson, a Democrat from Indiana. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. We were just talking about the speaker's race. It's tomorrow morning. What are you and Democrats going to do?
I know I'm supporting my good friend, Leader Hakeem Jeffries. I think he'll be a phenomenal speaker. I think he represents the change that is happening in our country, and I think he represents a new start.
What do you expect Republicans to do, and what do you think the larger significance of this uncertainty still is?
Well, I think it reflects the fracture that is the Republican Party. They're divided. There's infighting. You have different groups with different ideologies, and they can't seem to get on the right page. I think most will coalesce around Speaker Johnson, but there are still some outliers who are very ambitious. And these outliers tend to keep trouble up, to leverage this trouble to get a plum committee assignment or to get some other kind of chairship. But it's going to be a wild ride. But I'm with Hakeem Jeffries.
Democrats have been there before for Mike Johnson to save him. Not this time. Why not?
Well, you know, Speaker Jeffries has been very clear. I think Democrats don't want to be seen as having supported this crazy agenda led by far-right MAGA Republicans who intend to divide our country, who intend to take our country back to some mythical good old days. And Speaker Jeffries has been very clear, or future Speaker Jeffries has been very clear in this matter. And so Democrats will stand united while Republicans continue to be fractured.
All right, let's talk about a few weeks from now, when there is a speaker one way or another, how Democrats, you want them to interact with not just the Republican leadership in the House, but also a President Trump. On January 20th, Donald Trump will be back in the White House. And there are questions about how Democrats should work with the Trump administration. Tom Suozzi, who is your Democratic colleague from New York, from Long Island, who represents a Trump-won district, has an op-ed in the New York Times this morning, and he thinks that Democrats should find places to work with the Trump administration. He says, as a Democratic member, I know my party will be tempted to hold fast against Trump at every turn. That would be a mistake. As I see it, the results of the 2024 campaign were a mandate for border security, immigration reform, low inflation, economic stability, and common ground on culture war fights. That's good for America, says Suozzi. So let's make our shared agenda in 2025. What do you think about that? He says you should find ways to work with Trump.
Well, I don't disagree. I think a lot of the bills that I've had passed personally they've been passed with Republican support. And so I think where President Trump is concerned about job creation, I think where he's concerned about border security and national security, I think there are ways in which we can work together in a strategy that will help our collective districts, that will help fellow Americans, that will encourage economic stimulation, that will encourage job growth, that will keep our borders safe, but not in a way that will inflame existing hostilities between groups and entities that otherwise should be working together around the clock. Look, Democrats aren't in unison. We have different caucuses with regional concerns. We have different groups like the Congressional Black Caucus, which I'm a member, the Hispanic Caucus, AAPI, and so many groups. Also the Progressive Caucus, as well as New Dems. So we have some philosophical differences, but we're always able to come together for the greater good. And I think if our president, our future president, our soon-to-be president, Donald Trump, is on the same page, I think we can do what's right for our constituents. Now, we're trustees and we're representatives for our constituents. So we're trustees over taxpayer dollars, but we also represent the interest of our district. So ways in which we can work together, how can we deny the American people and taxpayers of that wonderful opportunity to do so?
Just one last question on the speaker's race, back to that, because it is tomorrow again. Any predictions? I mean, how long will it take? How many ballots will there be?
I sure hope it doesn't take as long as it did 2 years ago. You know, you had families come out, you had folks waiting, a series of votes that exhausted the larger body. I mean, that's what a democracy is all about. But the American people are sick and tired of the pageantry. They want us to get to work and do what's right for their interest. And I think for us to think that it's okay to go on with this political theater, it's simply unacceptable.
Congressman Andre Carson from Indiana, appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you very much.